almost every other week, there was some event that was being put on by the Scheller community for new students to be able to come in, network, start getting familiar with campus, hanging out with the admin team, getting acclimated before the semester started. And again, that also let me know that I was in the right place because, even as an accepted student, before I even stepped foot in the building officially, you guys are there as a support team and a support system.
Welcome to another episode of the Intersection Podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. I'm your host, Analisa Wade. I'm a second-year full-time MBA student here at Scheller, and today it's very special because it's kind of like an anniversary episode. The first time we did video, it was our veterans episode, and here we are again today with something similar. Today we have two special guests. We have Shae Malcolm, and we have Matt Geran. Can you first tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you here to Scheller?
Hi, I'm Shae. About myself, I decided to enlist in the Air Force pretty much right out of high school. So most of my professional career and all my work experience has been in the armed forces. While I was enlisted, I was Health Services Administration, which is essentially sort of a catch-all for hospital ops. About halfway through, I decided I wanted to specialize in IT. Proceeded to switch over and cross-train is what we call it. After about 7 years, I decided to separate because I just wanted to move a lot closer to my family, and I thought it was about time. And I was just finishing up my bachelor's program, and I always knew that getting an MBA was a big personal goal of mine, coming from a family of educators. So as soon as I got out, I submitted my application and took the plunge.
Wow. And just really quickly, so your family, you're from here, I assume?
I was actually born in Jamaica, and my family and I moved up here to Atlanta when I was about 13.
Wow, that's very cool. And what about you, Matt?
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Atlanta. Went and did my undergrad at a small school in South Carolina. Got a physics degree. Wasn't really sure what to do with that. So looked at different options. Ended up talking to a submarine recruiter. So I decided I wanted to go join the Navy, do my time. So I was a submarine officer for the last several years. Spent some time in Charleston. And then I was on the USS Rhode Island out of Kings Bay, Georgia. So I lived in Jacksonville for a little bit during that time. And then couldn't do that for life. Shout out to the guys that do a career out of that. Can't be on a metal tube for the rest of my life. So I had the GI Bill. So I figured that MBA was kind of the next step. Have Uncle Sam pay for me to go back to school and just kind of figure out what was next from there. I knew with the military, I gained a lot of leadership and teamwork skills, but didn't have the business acumen. So figured do the MBA, figure out what's next.
Is there something particular that brought you to Scheller specifically? I know you said you wanted to kind of transition and pivot from what you were doing, but why Scheller?
So, funny story, my dad actually worked for Georgia Tech on the main campus for several years. So in true dad fashion, every time there was a holiday or a break or summer or something, he would essentially just abandon me on campus for the duration. So I spent a lot of time, just exploring, hanging out with a lot of the Georgia Tech students, sitting in on a lot of the activities on campus and the free lectures. And it sort of started really feeling like home for me. At the time when I was graduating high school, I wanted to apply, but I just knew that I wasn't in the best position with, still not being a citizen technically at the time. Moving back from North Carolina, because I left Atlanta for a period of time to graduate and then I came back, there was just a lot going on. But Georgia Tech had always been one of my goals. So after a few years when, like I said, I did my service, came back full circle, moved back to Atlanta and was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to go for it.
Awesome. And that's when you came here for the MBA?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, what about you, Matt?
Yeah, so Tech, so being from Atlanta, Tech was kind of on my list, but I wasn't really sure. I actually looked kind of at going exploring other cities, just get out of the area and see something else in the country. But ultimately, I looked at kind of where I wanted to end up was in the tech space. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it was tech. We love talking about Georgia Tech as the intersection of business and technology. So looked at a lot of companies that were in the area, and I figured if I want to be in that area, then I need to go to school in that area, find connections in that area. And ultimately, I also wanted to kind of test out, do I want to live in Atlanta for the rest of my life or for a long portion of my life? and I've been super happy with it so far, and I'm coming back, hopefully staying for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like you both were committed to Georgia Tech. That was pretty much all that was on your mind. Can you tell me a little bit more about what was your support system like when you started thinking about applying to actually applying? Like, what was that process like from like a vet experience? How was that?
Yeah, I can kick it off. So a lot of friends in the military and the Navy kind of got out around the same time as me. They were also looking at other schools. I was kind of doing the same as them. I was looking in Chicago. I was looking in New York. And then my sister actually did her undergrad here. She's like, hey, they got a pretty good MBA program over there, so why don't you check it out? I did, and then I reached out to the vets groups here and got like a resounding just, hey, I'll make time for you. Hey, let's talk about this. How can I help you? And not that other programs didn't have that, but I felt like I was a little bit more like sought after here at Tech, and it was kind of a smaller community too. So I didn't really get like lost in the minutia of like, hey, I'm just another like person trying to come to school here.
That's great.
I had a very similar but also almost opposite experience at the same time. So my family is scattered all over the Southeast, and being that I joined so young, and I was there for the majority of my adult life at that point, pretty much my entire support system is still in the military.
Oh, wow.
So that was a really hard transition for me, was, sort of leaving that team space that I was so accustomed to and then moving back home. But on the flip side, that also allowed me to connect a lot more with my family once I got back, speaking to relatives that I hadn't spoken to, being able to like see my younger siblings and cousins grow up and start high school and stuff. So that's been really fulfilling. And one of the big factors that let me know that Georgia Tech was the right choice for me is as soon as I decided that I wanted to apply, I submitted an inquiry, and I want to say within 24 hours, I had another female veteran who was a part of the program reach out to me, give me her phone number, exchanging emails, and she was essentially becoming a part of that support system already, even without a commitment from me to come. So I could only imagine how much more welcoming the full community would be once I got accepted.
Yeah, like how did that make you feel? Like you just did a quick inquiry and then you get like this really like warming message. Like what was your first thought when you saw that?
So Georgia Tech was the only MBA program I applied to. I only submitted one application one time because I just knew where I wanted to be. And I think getting that experience at first sort of started fulfilling some of what I was missing from leaving that military community initially. Getting that experience at the very beginning started fulfilling a lot of what I was missing from leaving my pretty tight-knit military community. And I knew that coming to Scheller, I would also get that same sense of, just like familiarity and camaraderie, especially with other veterans in the program.
Yeah, absolutely. You both kind of talk about something that comes up a lot on the podcast. It's like this idea of like someone in your family went to Georgia Tech or somehow affiliated. I know you said your dad used to work here, your sister, she's a Yellow Jacket. It kind of just sucks you in. But for me, I don't have anyone that came to Georgia Tech, but I also felt that immediate community feel. Can you talk a little bit about how, you started the program and like how the community is, at least for veterans, like once you kind of get here, like the initial suck you in, reel you in, does it like continue on like while you're here?
Yeah, I would say it definitely does. I think, and you guys may agree, disagree, but that first week of orientation, I always tell everyone, like, just buy in. Like, if you just buy in, like, you're going to get what you can out of it. You're going to get to know all your classmates really well. And then specifically the veteran group, we have a pretty small group here. I think this year there's only 17 of us. So everyone is, like, super willing to go out of their way and help out and do resume reviews. Hey, are you prepared for this interview? Do you want to talk about it? That kind of thing. So I've been pretty happy with that group specifically and just the class as a whole. I think we've gotten super close.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say following the welcome weekend celebration that was thrown for the accepted students, almost every other week there was some event that was being put on by the Scheller community for new students to be able to come in, network, start getting familiar with campus, hanging out with the admin team, getting acclimated before the semester started. And again, that also let me know that I was in the right place because, even as an accepted student, before I even stepped foot in the building officially, you guys are there as a support team and a support system. So for me personally, it has continued from, honestly, application until now within the veteran groups and within all the other affinity groups that are here at Scheller.
Yeah, welcome weekend was really cool. I remember just like, because you don't know what to expect. I remember I was like, oh, what do I wear? Like, do I go up? Do I go down? Like, you just don't know. And then you just get there and everything just feels like, okay. And like, just, okay, you're right where you need to be.
Yeah, it's like they do a good job of who they want to come to the school. They're like, all right, let's get like-minded people and put them in the same room.
Exactly. It's like you feel like you already know everyone. Like, that was really cool.
I remember I showed up in slacks my first day because I'm like, oh my God, Georgia Tech business. I'm going to be super tight-knit. And I walked in and everyone was in like cardigans and jeans, and they were like, come as you are.
Yeah, come as you are. And no one judges. Mm-hmm. I dressed up a lot, like, during my first, like, semester, and it's like, no one cares. Someone's in Crocs.
You always see that slow progression of, like, all right, everyone's in, like, polos and slacks. All right, now we're in sweatpants and flip-flops.
Especially the second year. You can easily identify first years from second years, like, in the beginning, because it's like, oh,
it's like the classic like senioritis. Like, all right, whatever. What do we got to do?
Exactly. So we talked a lot about like socials from a generic standpoint from Scheller overall, which I definitely agree, hands down, great socials. But I want to drill more into the vet experience. Like, what type of events do you do? Is there a specific club that hosts things? Like, what is that life like?
So here at Scheller, we have our own veterans group, and it's sort of an offshoot of the main veteran community over on the main campus where, we have all vets from all different backgrounds, different academic programs, and different levels, so a mix of master's and undergrad students. Here at Scheller, Matt was saying, he'll come up every couple weeks. We all have lunch together. We do off-site events with the main campus community. We did like an Atlanta football club game at State Farm the other day. I feel like there's just always something happening. Apple was hosting a veteran-specific, recruiting events and info sessions that was sent over to us from the main campus. So we try to stay as plugged in with that community since we're sort of geographically separated.
You're saying there's a bigger, like at large, like Vets Club, that's Georgia Tech.
Yes.
And then it drills down into the different areas on campus. So Scheller, we have our own Vets Club that falls under there, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically we have the university as a whole has the Veterans Resource Center, which kind of takes care of undergrads, different colleges, all the different students. And then we specifically have like the MBA Veterans Club, which is people specifically coming first and second years to get their MBA here. And like event-wise, kind of throughout the fall, we had the MBA Veterans Conference. So hopefully something came out of that. I don't know. But kind of gearing up for that, we were looking at resumes, kind of trying to just provide whatever sort of advice we could to the first years and second years still looking for roles after this. And then, like she said, it's really just kind of like the camaraderie of like, hey, I'm available here at this point. If you need to come, like complain, ask questions, whatever you need to do, we're here for it. And then also Scheller, they're really good at the veterans too. They're putting on like a Veterans Day lunch or dinner. I apologize, but and then hopefully, I haven't put it out yet, but we're gonna do like a little Army-Navy football watch party somewhere.
So with the Vets Club, we talked about kind of like events, and you said something about a Vets conference, right? That's what you said. Mm-hmm. Is that hosted by Scheller's MBA, or how does that kind of like come about, and what does that look like?
No, so nationwide, they do like a MBA Veterans Conference, and it's just for students kind of all over the place to come in. And like super fortunately, it was in Atlanta. It has been the last 2 years. So all of us were able to go attend and just kind of see what opportunities are out there. All the recruiters there either are military specific or they have past military experience. So kind of gives us like a little bit of a leg up getting into some of these companies. It's like, hey, we want to hire veterans, so we're going to come target you specifically for this.
Do you feel like there's specific roles that you're more sought out for, like based on like your military, Navy, Air Force experience?
Yes. I will say the feedback that I've gotten from companies that I met at the conference and just from the recruiting actions that we've taken so far is that it's not necessarily hard skills that they seek us out for, but more soft skills. our abilities to lead, our resiliency, being able to stay calm under pressure, things you can't necessarily teach in a classroom environment that, we've sort of organically gathered over time. We lean a lot more towards, leadership positions, even above and beyond, sort of a base MBA student. And that's where I've seen most of the offers, even without me applying, them actually reaching forward and actively seeking out military talent.
And like with those things in mind, like being self-aware and that about like your background and experience, how are you kind of like telling your story to say, okay, I know I'm a vet. This is what makes me stand out. This is where I want to go. How are you kind of drawing the line? I'm asking you specifically because I know you're still in your first year. Like, what's that looking like for you?
Honestly, for me, it's a story about just being tough from the beginning. Coming here as an immigrant Black woman, making it through high school, not having any immediate prospects that were interesting to me, deciding to enlist, not even being a citizen, seeking out my citizenship, and then just sort of maximizing that opportunity that I got.
Okay, so you were in the military, working, interning, like literally doing the whole nine.
And a full-time student at the same time.
And you said you came here and you knew you wanted to pivot into tech. Like, what does that look like for you? Is that what you're currently doing, or like has that changed? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so coming in, like I said, I didn't really know what was next. I figured I'd come to the MBA and explore like what people do day to day. Honestly, I asked my friends, I'm like, what did you do today? Like, like tangibly, like give me that. And so kind of throughout the fall, I just did coffee chats with different people, found a second year who was with IBM, did a sales role. Actually coming in, I was like, all right, I'm not getting into sales. Like, I don't want to grind that out.
Last words.
Yeah. But talk with him, and it's really like a consultative sales role. I really liked his day to day. Applied for a position with IBM. Got it. I worked this past summer as basically a sales strategy sort of role within their ecosystem and like a channel partner team. And so I loved it. I drank the Kool-Aid pretty heavily. They're here in Atlanta too. So I was just kind of super happy with all that. I'm heading back next August, so a little summer after I graduate, but it's been a pretty smooth transition.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I was joking earlier, telling him like about his posture. You can tell he definitely is good and settled. Your next steps are secure. I can literally just tell by how you're sitting.
I don't gotta go to sleep worried.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus the 6 coffee chats I have tomorrow.
Yeah. So you actually, that's a good point. You both are in completely different stages in the MBA journey. You're on your way out, you got your job, did the internship, you came in new and you wanted to do tech. You're not going to tech sales. Like, bravo, you're good to go. You need a mentor. Like, so what are things looking like for you?
Honestly, I'm taking it pretty chill this first semester. I know academically it is a grind, and I expected that. But my main focus, one of my biggest goals, was the networking piece, establishing that community, and just exploring. Like, I worked in a hospital for 7 years, and I get out and I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to do with my life? What is a marketing? I don't know. What do you do with data other than the 2 classes I took in undergrad? I had no idea. So I find myself talking to a lot of our second years, coffee chatting with the professors, just really taking an interest in things that I've never done before or hadn't had the opportunity to do, and then just sort of slowly fashioning my path that way. I still don't know what I want to do fully. I know I do want to be in tech somewhere. What flavor? Not sure yet. But I'm getting a growing list of things that I don't want to do.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm like, process of elimination. At some point, we're going to even out, and I'm going to have a job.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful story. I think it's almost nicer when you come in without a plan, because honestly, anywhere you end up is, I mean, this is great. This is,
right.
Mm-hmm. But more honestly, likely you will end up where you want to because you were so open to explore all opportunities. So I think that's actually a great plan, not having it all laid out or just being so glued to one thing. And then if that thing doesn't happen, you just feel like, well, this wasn't worth the 2 years because I didn't get like what I was looking for. So I think that's great.
I change my mind like daily. So for me,
you'll keep doing that over and over again.
It was impossible for me to have a plan and pursue it with any meaningful effort. So I was like, yeah, it is what it is. Just let things ride.
Okay, so before we transition, what are your top 3 things today?
Today,
like jobs, like wise.
product management, which keeps me sort of kind of in a client role, kind of in a technical role. Tech sales is very heavily recruiting me.
You've been saying that one.
I know. It keeps popping. Honestly, I didn't apply for a single role. They keep coming to me.
Yeah. Oh.
So I'm like, is this a sign?
Yeah.
Am I just that great?
Yeah.
Like, what's the dealio, guys?
Yeah.
And strategy and operations. I've been getting small chunks of it throughout the classes we've done. And I have a newfound interest in marketing.
Okay.
But I also think that's because the professor's mad chill.
Yeah.
Love his class.
Is this Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a big fan.
He's great. Well, I mean, I love hearing about your experience. You both sound like you're clearly having a fascinating time here. And you're just diving in, trying all things, which is what they say to do. So it seems like you're taking advantage of it. What advice do you have? This question is always so cliche, but really, don't make your answer cliche. Let me be the cliche one. So what advice do you have for incoming or prospective vets that want to come to Scheller? Like, one or two things. Make it brief, though.
I would say advice is learn how to sell yourself and, like, sell your stories. That's one of the harder parts about coming in is you've done so many things in your military career that are applicable to these different roles. It's just trying to figure out how to twist that story, and not twist it, but apply that story to a civilian, because we use a lot of acronyms, use a lot of words that maybe don't translate as well, but you did a lot of stuff as an officer, an enlisted sailor. That's another thing is it doesn't matter if you're an officer enlisted, you did a lot of successful things. And so coming from the military, you can bring those things, create a story out of it, and just tell people, like, hey, I was successful in this team. Here's how I contributed, and here's how I'm going to contribute to your company.
You had to give another piece of advice because you're going into sales, and you gave like a sales advice. That was great, though. I did like that.
Well, yeah, just in terms of recruiting in general.
Something else. Throw them off. Something else.
All right, just any student really is you're back in school, so enjoy it. That's been one of the great things about tech is I went to a small liberal arts college, so I didn't really have like a big football team, huge college experience. And being here in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, tailgating every weekend, going out with friends, it's really fun to just be back in college. So enjoy that experience.
I like that. That was good. That was really good.
Ooh, for me.
From a first year perspective, like just getting started. What are you like, 2 months in?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
God.
I was joking, but really?
No, for real. Scheller time is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be generic, but
Starts to be generic.
Yeah. You can do it. I feel like that fear, especially for members who had been in the military and had much longer careers, or like me, the military was effectively all you've ever known, trying to take that next step with no idea where it's going to lead was mind-boggling. And especially trying to break away from some of the sort of rigidness that you get being in the military and becoming more flexible. It was a really hard pivot, but I was one of the first people to fully separate in my circle. I'm still the only one who's actually successfully gotten out. So I didn't have anyone really to reach out to and get personal anecdotes from. And I was initially very scared to take that jump, but for me, it came down to worthiness. I'm like, I've worked hard. This is one of my main goals. This is what I've been working towards. Just do it. I mean, the worst they could say is no, and that just means I'm going to have that stronger of a package when I reapply next year. So you can do it. You are worthy. It's a great experience. If you have no idea where you're going, setting the foundation here and then building up is only going to set you up for success.
That's awesome. That was actually really great. It wasn't generic at all.
Oh, thank you.
If prospective students are watching this, can they reach out to you and kind of ask questions, or maybe you can share your experience? Is that something you're open to?
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone's transitioning in the military, trying to figure out what's next, I think we're pretty wide open to be reached out to.
All right.
Yeah. Connect with me on LinkedIn, guys.
All right.
I'm also a first-year student ambassador on the prospective students board. So if there are any veterans out there who are interested in, doing a deeper dive into the veteran experience here, or need tips on applying and setting up your application, connect with me on LinkedIn or submit an inquiry on sort of the Georgia Tech MBA page. Our admin team does a wonderful job trying to filter those out and find veterans to match with other veterans so we can start building those bridges early.
That's great. Well, thank you both for coming on the Intersection Podcast. I actually learned a lot. This was lovely. I hope you guys had a good time.
We did. Thank you for
Thank you.
having
Yeah,
us.
appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Intersection Podcast. You can watch us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud. We invite you to rate and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.